But if there's an overwhelming majority of people in the state who are in favor of renewable energy, as a legislator, I probably ought to give it a good hard look, and I did.
The history of solar energy in North Carolina is a long and prosperous one, and it all began with a few smart bills.
Federal PURPA was instrumental to help us get to scale because the utility under federal PURPA law has to buy the electricity that a eligible renewable energy system would generate. And solar farms, all the way down to really small solar installations, are eligible under that law.
PURPA, which stands for the Public Utility Regulatory Policies Act of 1978, required utilities to accept electricity from smaller power producers, including solar farms.
So because of that, you could build a solar farm up to 5 megawatts, and Duke had to hook it into the grid.
But that wasn't the only incentive in North Carolina that helped foster solar.
We had tax credits in place that we renewed every 5 years until the cost of utility scale solar came down enough that we didn't need it for that type of project anymore, although that could have made similar policy sense. In 2007, we decided that we needed to take part of the electricity portfolio and dedicate it to renewable resources and ways to save energy.
A key policy that has helped solar spread across North Carolina, I must say, is the state's Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard. I firmly believe that if it wasn't for having a Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard, we wouldn't be where we're at now.
Other states didn't do that, so it really created an environment here. Only here and in California really wasn't so generous, so there's a natural gravitation, if you will, towards North Carolina for entrepreneurs and the solar industry to come.
Solar started to then come down in price so much, both because of the hard cost declines, like the panels, and soft cost declines because of the solar activity that was happening in our market as a result of our tax credit and the small solar carve-out, gave entrepreneurs enough of a reason to open up shop, to say North Carolina's open for business and take some risks, and they were able to bring some initial investors along with them and start trying out business models.
In Chapel Hill, we have Strata Solar, and Marcus Wilhelm figured out a way to make what he would describe as like postage stamp sized 5 megawatt solar farms that he could replicate, and so there drive efficiencies to bring the cost down. So because of a really smart business savvy mind, they were able to come up with a model that enabled them to make money while doing something that was so good for our environment.
And they weren't the only ones that figured this out, but that kind of innovation off of a standard offer contract to turn it into significant cost reduction within the business, that's just smart entrepreneurialism.
The state of North Carolina laid down the groundwork for numerous innovators to come in and change the energy landscape for the better. The numbers don't lie when it comes down to just how far renewables have made their way into the system.
About 9.5% of electricity, retail electricity in North Carolina comes from renewables. We are now on a path by 2022 for that to be about 17.5%, and by 2028 to be about 23%.
The rest of North Carolina's electricity comes from dirtier sources like coal and natural gas.
Beyond that, we would like to see North Carolina in the ballpark of 40% renewables by 2028, not the 23 that we're on track for.
Renewables have become a powerhouse for supplying energy to the state. Now it's just a question of how long this powerhouse can supply power, and projections are looking favorable.
The first solar panels back in the 70s were like about 12% efficient, and now they're pushing 30, and I think we're going to go more than that. Plus all the other technology in there. For solar, bright and rosy future as far as I can see.
They've run the numbers, and smart business people are not going to make investments that will run themselves into the ground. And what I've heard repeatedly from many different solar companies is that they're getting to the point where they're cost competitive right now without any subsidies. I think it says a lot that even here in North Carolina, where our electricity prices are so cheap, that a company like Duke Energy is interested in building more renewables, more so than building other more expensive options.
That's indicative of the fact that people want solar. It's the most popular resource. It's in the money. It's a least cost resource. Companies aren't going to be happy doing business here if they can't be solar powered.
So, how does the future look for renewable energy?
The future for renewable energy looks inevitable, in my opinion.